Here you go. Yeah, let's do it, baby. Woo!
We have to get off of here. No, don't push the button. Don't push the button. Let me out. Let me out.
Win. It's all right.
No, it's gonna crash. It's gonna crash.
Wendy?
The hydraulics will rupture. The dragons will collapse, please.
What's going on?
Let me off.
Chick's on something. It's all right.
Okay, let him out.
Welcome back to the Hiding Behind Horrors podcast, where we review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Mark.
I'm Tawan.
And today we're reviewing Final Destination 3, released in 2006. Directed once again by James Wong, and written by Glenn Morgan and James Wong. Tawan, can you give the people the plot summary?
6 years after a group of high school students first cheated death, another teen has a premonition that she and her friends will be involved in a horrifying roller coaster accident. When the vision proves true, the students and her fellow survivors must deal with the repercussions of cheating the Grim Reaper.
I had seen the first Final Destination, like initially when it first hit, like either VHS or when it hit cable. Oh my god, VHS! Wow. But I didn't become obsessed with this franchise until this movie. I own this movie on DVD, and I watched it way more than a child should have. I say child. I was like 11. That sounds about right. I was about 10 or 11. And I watched this movie way more than I should have. I will say I appreciate this movie because this also kickstarted my obsession with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, because I had seen her in this. I had also previously seen her in the Black Christmas 2005 remake. And then I had seen her after this in the Live Free, Die Hard movie. So like this is what kickstarted my like continual obsession with Mary Elizabeth. And like this movie was actually pretty, I'm not gonna say it was better than the previous two, but it took a different spin and kind of like separated itself from the previous two. But there are also some questionable parts that I will talk about when we get to the scenes. But overall, this was, I don't know, I feel like this was the movie that got most of the fans really locked into the movie because of all the gore that it presented. But what about you, Tuan? What are your thoughts on Final Destination 3?
Yes, Final Destination 3 is my favorite out of all of these movies. It's definitely the one that I have rewatched the most. I like the opening scene of this movie, like the whole concept of it being like a roller coaster, like was so different because compared to like the first two things where, the first movie semi plausible, plane blowing up. I mean, it definitely could happen. And then the second movie, we got the like the car crash pile up. That's a little more plausible, but so many people have a irrational fear of roller coasters. Like it's crazy. Like some people won't even go to theme parks or anything, just like because they don't want to get on a roller coaster. They find them scary. So like this kind of feeding into that like fear that some people have was like really really interesting. And also like Mark, I do love Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She's a great actress and she was really good here. And I really think she's probably the best actor, like main actor of this whole series so far. Well, as far as like the main characters go, I think she's probably the best we got because she really does have like she's really good at her job. And yeah, I feel like this one just like stuck in my head. I think it has the most like depths the deaths that I like the most out of this one. Um, I was about to say story, but like I mean they all follow the same general story. But I feel like I was probably more engaged because I do like Mary Elizabeth Winstead as an actor, and she's just really like she sells it a bit more for me as like the character in this movie. But yeah, I think this one has just like stood the test of time for me personally as like my favorite one, and I'm actually very glad we're getting to it. So, yeah.
Honestly, I'm gonna just say it. I don't want to say this isn't gonna preview my ranking, but like for me, this is where the franchise peaks. Like I feel like this is like as good as the franchise gets. And I don't want to preview my thoughts on the next two movies, but for me, this is where the franchise hits its peak. I don't know about you, but I can confidently say that, in my opinion.
I would agree this is where it peaked, but I do think one after this, that's not the one right after this, brings it back.
Yes, 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 yes. But since you brought it up, let's talk about the premonition. Now, the premonition kind of after I watched the movie and then I watched some YouTube videos. Now, the premonition itself is good. Like yeah, there's some CGI bits and it gets a little distracting, but the kills in the premonition are great. But it's the post premonition that gets me because in the premonition, like the whole thing pretty much kicks off because the the pervy guy's camera falls and wraps around the roller coaster, right?
This is true.
But once he's kicked off the ride, then him and his camera are no longer there to cause the crash. So what ends up causing the actual crash?
The world may never know. Death
Because
has no.
this is the first time that the thing that started the crash was the thing that started that was the kickstarter of the premonition is taken out of the premonition, but it still comes into fruition. Like I don't. But other than that, like the whole roller coaster scene and oh my god, when that one guy, the main guy, what's his name, Kevin, when he's like cut in half, when he's trying to like split, like oh my
Crazy.
wow. But what about you? What are your thoughts on the premonition?
Yeah, the premonition was really good in this one. And what's crazy is like even the little build up to it of how like we were getting to the peak of the roller coaster. It felt like because we are actually on a roller coaster. Like not that you feel like you're in any harm, but there's like a slight there's like a tinge of anxiety there. Like getting up to it, you're like, oh shit, like here it come, and then they actually like start on the ride. They kind of did really good with building that up. That's
Mm-hmm.
one thing I can kind of say about this movie. Like, even though other movies do it too, but this one I feel builds the anxiety of some of the kills like really well, and they did it good with like how they set it up in this premonition scene here, and it was all it once it started going like it was kind of no stopping for this one. Um, But yeah, I think like just like I said, it's my favorite. I think that this is also my favorite premonition scene as well. And maybe this one and two, they got to fight, but yeah, this one is definitely up there for me in a little ranking of them.
Yeah, I liked it. And then doing research to find out about the whole like the initial like walking up into the roller coaster and waiting in line, all that was a practically built set. Even the little
Mm-hmm.
devil like statue, that was all like built. Like that was amazing. And I feel like details like that is what makes certain scenes pop.
Because I also remember kind of like you seeing like behind the scenes of it and how they had them on actual like rigs and stuff and like riding the roller coaster like multiple times to get certain shots and everything and it's good. It just adds to it so much of it like keeping that practicality of it. Like, because even though, like, yeah, they had to use like we know they had to use CGI at certain parts because no way you're gonna get like everything practical for like a roller
Hmm.
coaster scene, but
But
it's mixed in so well that you don't notice.
that's also what I like though. It's just like have the practical kill there and then use CGI to enhance it.
Hmm.
Don't use CGI to replace it.
Yeah,
Like I always feel like CGI should be used as an enhancement, not as an outright replacement. But that's just me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mhm. But I want to talk about Death's design this time around because honestly, like I didn't. Okay, Death didn't really have a design, and
The writers made one.
like, 'cause in the first movie, people were just dying. There was no like, oh, you sat here, you sat here, you sat there. People were just dying off, and Alex was just trying to figure out what the fuck was going on.
No, there
Wait,
was because
was
remember
there?
it was
I missed it. Then.
remember Alex picked up on like the way it was like
It was going based off like how they died in his vision.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, but that was straightforward. And then Def was just working backwards, trying to get everybody who was supposed to get got in the second one. And this one, it was like, okay, you sat here, you sat there. But not only that, not only is it going based off where you sat on the roller coaster, but now I have photos that show you how you died or how you're going to die. That I was like, did Kodak or somebody sponsor this movie where they haven't have a digital camera involved? Cause what the fuck was that about? That was the part I didn't like. I didn't like the whole Photoshop, the whole photo thing. Like that part wasn't for me.
I can see
What do
that,
you
but
think?
also I don't know if I care.
Oh my
Like I
god!
don't know if I cared that it was there. Like sure, like it added something else because we get that they kind of do this thing in like every movie at this point ongoing. They kind of switch up like what they perceive Death is doing this time around. So I mean, it's only. I'm not saying it's plausible. It's only plausible because it goes in with what the character was already doing, which was taking pictures for the yearbook.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It was I just had problems with the photos of it all, but I definitely wanted to get them people, and he was like, "This is how we gonna do it." And some of those kills were jacked up. But before we get to the kills, let's get to some scenes now. Now, I have to say, when it the only scene that the only scene that kind of gave me pause, they were talking about like what happened in the first movie. They kind of brushed over the second
Oh my
movie.
god, I forgot about that scene. I
Yeah,
just remember what
they
you're talking about.
they brushed over the second movie. They only really mentioned the second movie and some DVD extras, which was the whole concept of the whole DVD extra thing was like stupid, but I get it. It was, they're trying to play to the audience of the day, but they brush over the second movie. But for some reason, they have a passing mention of 9/11, implying that the events of 9/11 from like 9/11 overall, like from the towers to the Pentagon to the plane that crashed in the middle of where I forgot where it crashed, but it crashed was all part of some Death design to pretty much put it to making it part of the whole Final Destination franchise.
My
Now,
girl got turned into a conspiracy theorist.
fuck,
And she had Abraham Lincoln that too.
girl, all part of Death's design. This is 2006. This is what less than 4 to 5 years after 9/11, and somebody thought this was okay to do. You put Abe Lincoln in there. You could have picked several other disasters that weren't such on a big epic scale, but no, they said let's go do 9/11. That was wild, and that was the only scene that kind of just like took me out of it because I was like, "What the fuck? What
I
is
did.
this?"
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That that did take me out of it. I forgot about that.
And then the funeral scene took me off guard because I didn't know if I was supposed to be sad. It felt awkward because like the emo guy was giving a whole like speech, and then the two like ditzy girls were being cute, but they were getting it wrong. It was like a lot happening in that funeral scene. But if I'm being honest, outside of those two scenes and outside of the kills, there was nothing really else like interesting to me.
I have one.
Go ahead.
This is, and I feel like this is like the funniest scene out of like all these movies was the cut from the tanning beds to the fucking caskets.
Yes, that was so fucking.
That is one of the funniest scenes like in any horror movie to me. Like whoever did that,
It was so unserious.
I think
It was
about that.
so unserious.
I think about that here and there, and I've seen it's funny here too because I see it pop up on Twitter from time to time because people be like they were crazy for this because whoever did that is so funny.
They was so unserious, and it's insane.
Like it obviously is it's not funny, but like just it being like a direct cut like right after it was hilarious. But as far as scenes go, that's like the main one that I had. Like every time I watch this movie, like that scene cracks me up.
It's insane. But let's talk about some kills because I want to say I don't know. The kills they weren't as I don't know. I feel like the kills in the last movie were more interesting to me. Like these were more gorier, more bloodier, but they weren't given what the last one was given. But I do say some standout kills for me in this one. Um, the tanning bed scene, of course,
Yeah.
was iconic. Like them singing roller coaster and then tanning bed, and then like them sneaking the slushies in there, so they pretty much caused their own death. Like you not put any fucking drinks in there, and then him using the tanning, like it was all a bunch of stupid shit happening in that scene to make it happen. And then I have to say that the nail gun kill,
Yes.
only because I wasn't expecting her to die from a nail gun. It was so much happening in that like hardware store that could have like killed her, and that she just falls, and then the nail gun just starts to shoot her, and you hear the sound that the nails are making, and then she's making as it's hitting her. I was taken off guard, and then I don't know if you count the last part as a kill because we don't really get to see it actually happen. But I will say the scene at the Paul Revere reenactment with the horse running around and it just like wraps around Julie's neck
Mhm.
and you're like, damn, Julie's a goner. But they get it free and then they're like, who was sitting next to you? And she's like, it was her. And it just the fucking wooden thing just like impales her friend right next to her.
Yeah, that
And
was
you just
crazy.
see her slide. I was like, oh my god. And then my all-time favorite scene, favorite kill, because I hated this perverted character when
Frankie.
Frankie Cheeks gets
Mhm.
his brains like chopped up by
She
the
gets brain
engine.
scrambled.
I felt no sympathy, especially because like they were trying to get out anyway, and you were being a dick, holding up the line, gave the middle finger, and now you're dead. So I didn't care. But what about you? What are some kills that stood out for you?
One that stood out for me was as well the nail gun because like, and I feel this way about I think like three-ish kills in this movie because they did really good with the build up and kind of giving you that anxiety feeling watching it because like you mentioned like with the nail gun scene or kill, it was just so much going on in that fucking hardware store. And like in general, there's just so much stuff in the hardware store that could kill you if you're not careful. So like just seeing everything happen, especially when everything just started falling down and stuff, you're like, yo, what the fuck is about to happen? Only for it to be the nail gun, like that was so crazy to see. And I was like that caught me off guard the first time I saw the movie. I was not ready. Um Another one that's like that was when the football player, I forget his character's name, when he was in the gym and like you just saw everything like around him. You didn't know like if the weights were gonna crush him, like you didn't know what was gonna happen. And like when when he actually did die and you knew something was gonna happen, you weren't expecting like the weights to like come down from the sides on him like that. It was just the way that they kind of like built everything up, especially that scene, because like it was so much stuff going on in that gym. The music was loud as hell. Everybody was grunting everywhere. Like it was just a lot going on. So that was a good one. I will also throw in the tanning beds as well, because that's just that's like an iconic kill out of these movies. Like a lot of people know that one. I feel like that's the one probably people know the most from this movie is the tanning bed kill. And also when Ian dies at the end from that sign, because he thought that he was about to get away. Like he was like, "You're next, you're next," and then he dies. And the way that it just happened, that was a really good scene too. And I also remember like seeing like some behind the scenes on that one, and they went back to make it bloodier because it wasn't bloody enough the first time. Sir, Mark,
Hello? Oh, fuck.
there you go.
I was muted the whole time. Ah, who the fuck is this?
Hmm?
Somebody named Honeylove just... Who the fuck is Honeylove? Love Honey Babe. Who the fuck are you? My bad. Someone just randomly requested money from me on Cash App. I don't know who the fuck this is.
Oh, my bad.
Like, who the fuck is Honeylove? I don't know who you are. Time out for help. Who the fuck are you? If you didn't get my number, you shouldn't be asking me for money. Okay, my bad. Yeah, I had saw that some like speculation online that when you see her photo and it says like McKinley is going to kill her, she thought that he was going to kill her because
Yeah.
his last name is McKinley. But if he would have died in the hardware store like he was supposed to, then they saying that the McKinley sign was supposed to squish her.
Mm-hmm.
But he got her out the way and he stepped into where she was supposed to be at, so it skipped her and killed him. But I do know that him dying was supposed to be the last scene in the movie.
Yeah.
There wasn't originally supposed to be like the 5 months later, but apparently it's tradition for the Final Destination movies to go in and have to redo they ending, which usually means it's better. Because they never sound good at all.
Yeah, the test audiences for Final Destination seem to be knowing what they're doing.
Yeah, they be having them go fix that shit. So I'm just like, I hate a test audience because sometimes they be cutting some good shit, but the test audience so far they 3 for 3 on the endings for Final Destinations. I give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on to the characters. Now, coming up for characters for this, there's only really like 2 main characters. We only really follow what's her name? We only really follow Wendy and Kevin, and I guess a little bit of Julia. But let's see what we can talk about. Let's talk about Kevin. What are your thoughts on Kevin? Actually, no. Let's not do that. Let's talk about the survivors as a whole, like the group of survivors that we're left with
Mhm.
after the roller coaster. Because I feel like they all kind of just played into mid 2000s
Yeah.
teenage stereotypes. Like you have the jock, you have the emos, you have the ditzy hot girls, you have the perverted jock, and then you had Wendy, who was like the popular girl, but
Was she? Would you say she was popular?
well, she was like the shy. She's like a popular girl who was like shy and still like friends with everyone, still quiet. She's not one of the outspoken like popular people. Like she's one of those. That's what she was given. But I don't know. I felt like all the survivors were kind of just playing like types. Like even how they really died. Like the jock guy got killed. We didn't talk about his kill. Like he got killed by being smashed in a weight. What
Yeah.
about you? What about you? Thoughts on the survivors?
Yeah, I would. I think this is probably the group of survivors that maybe felt the most disconnected so far. Like, in the other ones, they kind of at least semi banded together. Like in the first one, they were all friends, so like they they kind of came together anyway naturally after everything happened. In the second one, like Kim brought them all together because of what happened in the first one. Whereas in this one, it was really just kind of the Kevin and Wendy show, and everybody else was the stuff was just happening. They were kind of like it was mainly Kevin and Wendy, and then just pulling up on whoever they thought was next. So they really didn't kind of have any camaraderie like semi or otherwise in this one, besides just like Wendy and Kevin and trying to, help everyone out. So yeah, it felt a bit disjointed on that aspect, but I don't I don't know if I even like treat that as a bad thing in these movies because I know what I'm coming here for when I see Final Destination. It's like I know what I'm here for, and it's passable for what we're given. We see how when it gets bad in upcoming ones possible, but in this one like it's passable. But I also like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, so like her as Wendy she was good for basically doing the roles of everybody else, like taking the
I
brunt
mean
of the
her.
work.
I mean her and the guy who played Kevin. Like I had been a fan of his since
Luck of the
all
Irish,
those. Huh?
Luck of the Irish.
Luck of the Irish. Fucking no. Actually, I go way back. It's the Smart House for me.
Oh, that one too. That was good.
Yes. Smart House. Luck of the Irish. He was in a bunch of Disney shit back in the day before he like left. And so I was like, fuck it. This is like him and Elizabeth, they were good enough to keep like to hold it down by themselves. I was just upset that like we got no Tony Todd. Like we got his voice, but like we didn't
True.
get to see him. Like I wish we'd have gotten that instead of the fucking 9/11 scene. Like that's but let's just move on to Julia. Wendy's sister, who we don't really get to see a lot of in this movie, and honestly, she doesn't really play in that much. And I didn't even think she would be relevant until we found out that she was on the coaster.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, okay. She was relevant for the last like 2 or 3 scenes. And I was still trying to figure out like, do I even really care about this character?
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah, I didn't really feel much about Julia. Like, honestly, until the end of the movie where she actually starts to play a role in what's going on is when we, even start to think about her again. But up until that point, like basically from the last 30 minutes, like from when we see her at the beginning to the last like 30 minutes of the movie, nobody thought about Julie.
Nope. Well, what are your thoughts on Kevin then?
Kevin was fine. Like he served like his purpose. He was obviously trying to be helpful because he saw like a friend like that was like in the dumps, and obviously after the situation as well, and her getting everyone off, but it's still happening, and her boyfriend died. Yeah, her boyfriend did die, because he stayed on the coaster. So he was definitely trying to be like as supportive as he could, but he also had like that um goofy type energy of himself, of like the character. So at certain points, it was like, I know you're trying to be helpful, but I don't think this is helping. But he did good with like keeping up with her though, because some people wouldn't keep up with everything that she's like trying to get across.
Yeah, he was just, I don't know. I guess he was there for her to. I guess she needed someone so she wouldn't just be talking to herself the entire time. She
Yeah,
needed to spout her ideas off, and he served a purpose. They always need someone to talk to. It was just his turn, but he wasn't really helpful. At least the cop in the last movie was like a cop. He could get information. Like this guy was just, I don't even know. I guess he was a cute face to look at, but they weren't even like trying to. I don't even know. There was like nothing there. But let's talk about Wendy. What are your thoughts on our girl Wendy?
well, obviously I love her because she's my Mary Elizabeth Winstead. But
Fact.
if we're being a bit critical, um, so if we're being a big, so just start. She is, out of all the other ones that we've seen so far, she is my favorite protagonist so far. With everything, I feel like she was doing a good amount of work to try to piece everything together. But I don't know if it's just me, but she at points she came across as what's the word I'm looking for? Fuck, I just had it. Damn, I
Pretend
lost my. I
pretentious.
lost, yeah, kind of like in that realm, like it was kind of like a know-it-all type of sense. But I feel like that, but that kind of rose into her character as well, being like she was kind of like that, um, type A personality, like you know, kind of person, and then so I guess that kind of goes into her character as well. But it was like, girl, like we, we all just well, not we all, because everybody else didn't even care except besides Kevin, but we the audience, we all would have figured it out too.
Yeah, I loved Wendy. Yeah, there were some issues there for me, but it's Elizabeth, so I let it slide. But I don't know. I just felt like the character was too abrasive, and okay, my issue with this character was just like she kept acting like she was the only one who lost someone she loved on the roller coaster, and
True.
she like no, like, and then the way she told Kevin that his girlfriend was gonna dump him, I'm like, damn, bitch. He did not need to know that. She's dead. He did not need that information. And like that doesn't take away his pain from losing her. She still died, thought that they were good and solid. Like, and not only that, he
Yeah.
lost they are literally in the same boat. She lost her boyfriend and her best friend. He lost his girlfriend and his best friend, but yet she kept being a dick to him up until the point where she thought he could be useful.
Mhm.
And that was kind of like pissing me off the entire time. I'm like, you're literally in the same boat. Why are you being mean to this man? It's not necessary, like, at all.
Yeah.
It's really not. You know, we never talk about death because death, it's not really a character. It's just a presence. So we gonna skip that. Yeah, but we have. No, I don't want to say that either. Well, we've come to the point of our show where Twan gives you all the behind-the-scenes info and facts. Twan?
So, Final Destination 3 had a budget of $25 million, and it brought in a box office of $118.9 million. Some interesting facts. James Wong, besides directing the first... What? Did you mean to say Final Destination?
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to say besides directing the very first Final Destination.
Okay. James Wong, besides directing the first Final Destination, is also known as the director of the live-action adaptation of Dragon Ball Evolution. Oh my god. He made that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Wow.
James, what was going on, bro? Oh, Lord.
2 hits and a miss.
Moving on. This is one of the films that the director and the DVD team collaborated from the film's inception to its DVD release. The film was shot with the DVD interactive features in mind, therefore several scenes were filmed several times with varying outcomes. Tony Todd, who portrayed William Bloodworth in Final Destination and Final Destination 2, provides the voice of the devil above the entrance to the roller coaster. He also provides the speaker's voice saying, "This is the end of the line," in the subway towards the end of the film. The scene taking place in the tanning booth was a closed set. Only the camera operator and director were present with Shalon Simmons and Yankee Crystal Lowe, and blackout curtains were hung to keep the scene private. The ending was reshot reportedly because of unfavorable reactions at preview screenings. This also happened with the previous 2 films in the series. After reshooting the ending in the winter of 2005, production of this film finally wrapped on January 31st, 2006. The film opened on February 10, 2006, only 10 days after the film was finished. Some critics' reactions. The film currently sits at a 43% on Rotten Tomatoes. Several critics describe the story as formulaic compared to the previous installments. Roger Ebert wrote that the film's main issue was its predictability and lack of tension because it was clear to everyone who must die and in what order. Variety compared the narrative negatively with the franchise's second installment, describing the third film as lacking intricacy. Lastly, the Seattle Times agreed the film's humorous tone helped to elevate it and said fans of the franchise would enjoy the death sequences.
Well, enough about them. What about us? Do we cash or pass Final Destination 3? One.
I definitely cash Final Destination 3. As I've said, this one is my favorite in the series. I probably, like, out of all of them, I probably have gone back to rewatch this one the most, or absorb like the most internet content on this one. Like if I ever come across the Final Destination Final Destination 3 kill count on YouTube randomly, I'll just watch it because why not? I like the movie. I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead is the strongest main character that we've gotten out of these movies, and I really like the death sequences and also the premonition. And because we really didn't touch on it, the ending, like premonition, was one of my favorite parts of this movie as well, the whole train sequence. And after Mark gives us cash, I do want to say a little something about that.
Now, how are you just going to assume that I'm going to cash this movie?
Are you going to cash the movie, Mark?
I am going to cash this movie because, like I said, this is one of the first. Well, no, it's not one of the first. It's the movie that like solidified my love for this franchise. Like the first one got my attention, but this one locked me in. And not only locked me into the franchise, it also made me a Mary Elizabeth Winstead fan. Like it was a 1-2 punch of those two things. Like I became a fan of them both, and I stuck it out even when there's been some hits and miss in the franchise and with some of the projects that she picks. But like this movie solidified my love for the franchise and for her, and I don't know it got my hopes up when I found out that they were making a fourth one. After this one is when I was like, oh, they're making another one. I have to go see it.
Wow.
So it's a cash for me. But you have some final words, Swan?
Yeah, so one thing that, not saying it irked me about this movie, but that I thought while rewatching it, but also I remember having this thought like in the past, like watching this one, was I really thought the train sequence was going to set up a new sequel at the end of this movie. I thought that
It should have.
I really thought that was going to set up a new sequel because of the way the ending. Because like the other two movies didn't like have anything that affected that many people at the end of them so far. Like the first one with Carter died from the sign that killed him, and then at the end of 2, it was that kid who was also on the highway that day. But in this one,
This was the first time we had an ending with a premonition.
yeah, ending with a premonition, and then also like it was multiple like people like in the same area, like in the train and stuff. It wasn't just like our characters. So I thought this like it would have been a good setup for a sequel if someone else, like you start the next one with the same train, and then these people get off, and then it goes from there. Like same setup, but that would have been a decent little setup for a sequel if they had
And I'm kind of upset that they've never done something like that. Like that would be a perfect way to like set up a sequel. You're actually right. Like that would be. Damn, that's actually brilliant. They need you in the writers' room because that'd be a good ass way to like set up a sequel.
Right? I'm cooking.
You are. Like, I'm not even mad at you. Like you definitely are. Damn, that's actually pretty good. But will the movie next week be any good? Tune in next week to hear our thoughts on the Final Destination. Good night.
If you like this episode, please check out the Haddonfield Horror Podcast from big series like Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Saw, or our one-off reviews like The Blackening and Hereditary. You can follow Haddonfield Horrors on Instagram and TikTok, where the hosts post updates and mini-reviews. Full episodes are available on several podcasting platforms and YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. The Haddonfield Horror Podcast is produced by Mark Smart,
Maria Perez,
Swan Griffin, and Elian Cordova. Themed by Lethal Injection and edited by Mark Smart.
The Haddonfield Horrors Podcast is a Letters to Media production.
Should we do an intro?